Hi, today we're skipping ahead to week 18 in our Argo books, day 3. So we are purposely skipping day 1 and day 2. This week we're reviewing different ways of finding volume. So the past 2 days we were really counting cubes and layers of cubes. Today we're going to be taking a look at dimensions and remembering that we can find volume by multiplying length times width times height. So let's take a look at number 1. Number 1 is telling us that there's a tank at a zoo that's 23 meters deep. So I'm considering that to be my height. So if I'm finding volume, I know the height of this is 23 meters. So volume is length times width times height. Okay, so there's my height. It doesn't give us the length and the width, but it does tell us that the tank has an area on the floor that's equal to 468 meters square. So area is equal to length times height. So actually, we don't have to calculate that. It's been calculated for us. So we have 468. And now in order to find the volume of this tank, we're going to take that area, length times width, and multiply that times the height. So 468 times 23. It's really hard to write with a mouse. 3 times 8 is 24. Put my 2 up there. 3 times 6 is 18, and 18 plus 2 is 20. 3 times 4 is 12. And 12 plus 2 more is 14. Okay, done with that, done with that. I'll get a different color. Now multiplying 468 times 20. So I'm going to put the 0 there for my 2 tens. 2 times 8 is 16. 2 times 6 is 12, plus 1 is 13. And 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9. Okay, final step to the algorithm. Add the numbers up, and I'll let you do that on your own to figure out how many cubic meters fill this tank. Okay, so that's the end of number 1. Let's take a look at number 2. Number 2 is over on this side. It tells us figure N has 10 more cubic inches than this prism below. So we don't see figure N, it's a separate figure. All we know is it's got 10 more cubic meters, or inches, sorry, than this shape. So I guess what I'd have to do is figure out the volume of this shape and then add 10 to that. So remember, volume is length times width times height. So my length and my width for number 2 is 5 times 2. And then I'd have to multiply that number times 15. So if I was solving this, I would multiply my 5 times 2 first, because multiplying by 10 is pretty easy. And then multiply that by 15. Remember, this is going to give us the volume of this figure. Then after we figure that out, we have to increase the volume by 10 or add 10 to it to get my volume for figure N. So I'll let you finish that final step on your own. We'll move on to number 3. Number 3, it says figure A. So kind of similar to number 2. We don't see figure A. They're just saying, hey, there's this figure, and it's got a length of 5 yards, a width of 9 yards, and a depth of 2 yards. And here's a different figure. Here's figure B. Which statement is true about figure A, which we don't see, figure B, and figure B? So if I'm just kind of scanning through these answer statements, There's a possibility that they could be equal, possibility that figure A is larger in volume than figure B, or figure B is larger. So I have to figure out the volume of each. So let's start with A first. A has length of 5, width of 9. So this is figure A, length of 5, a width of 9, and a depth or a height of 2. So a couple of different ways you could figure this out. You could multiply 5 times 9 and then multiply that times 2. I kind of see something that might make multiplying this easier. If I multiply 5 times 2, that's 10. And then I can easily multiply that times 9. It's almost like looking at different layers. We can change the order in which we multiply and still get the same answer. Okay, your job will next be, sorry, I had to pause for a second. My house phone was ringing. Okay, so lastly, you're gonna have to figure out the volume of figure B, and you can do that in a couple of different ways that we talked about. You can take a look at layers this way and then multiply the number of layers. Count the top layer and multiply that times 3. You could count this layer and multiply that times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So figure out the volume for B and then choose the answer statement that matches that. Okay, finally, number 4. Number 4 is an area problem. Number 4, what is the area of this rectangle? We're multiplying 2 fractions. We have length, 4/5 of a yard, width, 2/3 of a yard. 4/5 times 2/3. Remember, when we're multiplying fractions, we multiply the numerator, and then we multiply the 2 denominators. And I'll let you figure that on your own. Okay. Great work.